So, before I start this video, I want to make sure that everybody knows I'm not a doctor. I'm not an MD. I'm not a DO. I'm not an ND. I'm not a chiropractor. I'm not an LPN. I'm not an RN. I'm not a nurse practitioner. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a physical therapist. This video is not meant to be taken as medical advice. So, I want to go over some major changes that have taken place from the DSM-4 to the DSM-5. Now, before I get started, I want to point out that when I worked in mental health, that was when the switch took place from the DSM-4 to the DSM-5. It was the grace period. Most of the psychiatrists, actually all of the psychiatrists I worked with, thought that the DSM-5 was a joke. Two psychiatrists that I talked to and that were linked in with me on LinkedIn stated that they wanted to refuse to use the DSM-5 and would if they could, because the DSM-5 has been rewritten in such a way that literally everyone has a mental health disorder, which would be statistically impossible, and it makes a mockery of mental health, and the view of psychiatrists that I know have said that. So what the changes will be, it will be developmentally focused, new diagnostic criteria. Some of the disorders will change, including addition of new disorders and removal of the subtypes of schizophrenia. Dimensional measures includes measures of a disorder's severity to help clinicians think about what dimensions of disorders are similar, blah, 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 blah. Cultural and gender emphasis, of course. But I guarantee you they don't take into consideration white American culture. Further research, this will designate things that need further research. So there'll be social communication disorder. This edition allows clinicians to diagnose speech and language issues that aren't symptoms of reduced cognitive ability or autism. So that would be something I would assume like stuttering. Disruptive mood dysregulation. Now, wait. What's funny about that, though, is speech and language issues would be if they're not mental health related, that would be the area of a speech pathologist, not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist. Why they're adding that, I don't know, but it doesn't make sense to me. Okay, because that's a whole nother branch of, it's not medicine, although I think it's more similar to medicine than psychology is, and that would be speech pathology. So, disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. This diagnosis applies to children under 18 who display extreme rages and frequent outbursts, eliminating the classification of childhood bipolar disorder. Now, what's funny, when I was a kid, I was diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder for symptoms that were similar to that. Mind you, they never took into consideration the environment. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder. This extremely controversial addition affects up to 5% of premenopausal women. How would they know that? Hoarding disorder. This condition depicted blah, blah, blah. Caffeine withdrawal. Again, this is a medical issue caused by a dependence on caffeine, caused by taking in caffeine. Cannabis withdrawal. The proliferation of legal cannabis led to a pronounced increase in the people experiencing cannabis withdrawal. Excoriation disorder. This diagnosis addresses chronic. Now, what's funny is this is obsessive compulsive disorder. It doesn't need a special classification, but it has one now. It's for people that have skin picking. Okay. Binge eating disorder. Finally, that's been added, which is what it sounds like. Rapid eye movement sleep behavior disorder. This disorder causes people to act out dreams in potentially dangerous ways and is now separate from parasomnia category it occupied previous. Restless leg syndrome is a legitimate medical condition that's caused by a number of psychiatric medications, which is now in the DSM for some reason. Major neurocognitive disorder with Lewy body disease. This classification differentiates major and mild neurocognitive disorders, allowing for more specific treatment. Disinhibition social engagement disorder. This classification previously fell under reactive attachment disorder, but is now under a separate category because children with it do not necessarily lack attachment. Additional eating disorders. In addition to recognizing binge eating disorder, the newest edition of the DSM adds rumination, pica, and avoidant restrictive food intake. Now, rumination, which I would assume is eating your own vomit, pica, which is eating foreign objects, and avoidant restrictive behavior, these are all zoocoses, okay, which can be fixed with nutrition in animals, okay? There's no reason to think it's not the same in people. I highly recommend people look up Dr. Joel Wallach and read the book Dead Doctors Don't Lie and watch the lectures on Dead Doctors Don't Lie. Gender dysphoria. Individual whose gender at birth is contrary to the one they identify with now. The shift in language intends to represent these individuals' experiences more accurately and reduce stigma. Gender dysphoria will also now have a dedicated chapter separated from sexual dysfunctions and paraphilic disorders. Why? Why? Specific learning disorder. Specific learning disorder is now a single standalone category. It contains different specifiers to indicate more narrowly defined types of learning disorders such as dyslexia, and I would assume dyscalculia and things like that, that affect reading, writing, or math. It also replaces the IQ achievement disparity requirement with characteristic-based criteria. Now, why does that bother me? Well, that bothers me because somebody could have a perfectly normal IQ and suffer from a specific learning disability. Okay? You could have a perfectly normal IQ and be bad at reading, writing, mathematics, spelling, etc. There's no reason to replace an IQ test with a specific learning disability, because that's cheapening the importance of the IQ test. Gambling disorder. Somatic symptom disorder replaces the old somatoform disorders such as somatization disorder, hypochondriasis, pain disorder, undifferentiated blah blah blah, with somatic symptom disorder. It makes substantial changes to the blah blah blah. Okay, classifications with the new DSM criteria. Autism spectrum disorder. Okay, Asperger's has been removed. ADHD, PTSD. Due to the new research on PTSD available, DSM has expanded detail on this diagnosis. The new criteria add more information on diagnosing children and create 4 separate classes of symptoms: arousal, avoidance, flashbacks, and negative impacts on mood. Mental retardation. Result of the DSM-5's new focus on cultural relevance, it has reclassified the collection of issues called mental retardation as intellectual development disorder to reflect changes in everyday language. The criteria for diagnosis, yes, because that's exactly what we want. We want everyday language changing the way we communicate medically. Major depressive disorder. The new edition removes the exclusion that prevented many recently bereaved individuals from receiving major depressive diagnosis. Of course, let's make it easier to get diagnosed. Conduct disorder. The update to conduct disorder adds a descriptive feature specifier to the diagnosis. Minor neurocognitive disorder. Minor neurocognitive disorder previously required only a single criterion: neuropsychological testing results for diagnosis, blah, blah, blah. The revision will enable early detection, yada, yada, yada. Schizophrenia, DSM-5 raises the symptom threshold for diagnosis. An individual must now exhibit at least 2 of the potential symptoms to receive a diagnosis. You didn't have to before? The diagnostic criteria for schizophrenia also no longer identify subgroups, since these predominant symptoms tended to shift throughout the patient's life. Sleeping-waking disorders, I'm going to move on here. Now, what I'd like you to keep in mind is that Wikipedia refers to the naturopathic physicians and natural hygiene movement as pseudoscientific and orthomolecular medicine as pseudoscientific. What you are going to see is there is far more evidence and efficacy for the utilization of nutrition and, of course, exercise and things of that nature than there is regarding the baloney and what are haunting specters of psychiatric psychosis. So nutritional psychiatry is exactly what it sounds like. Over recent years, there has been a considerable increase in research surrounding links between psychiatric disorders and diet. As such, there has been an increase in research surrounding nutritional-based treatments for these disorders. For these studies, different treatment targets have been identified, including gut biome and nutrient deficiencies. Current research is promising and provides insight into alternative interventions for treating psychiatric disorders. Potential pathways that link diet and psychiatric disorders. The gut biome. Okay, nutrient deficiencies. You can read this on your own. I'm kind of skipping through here. Brain food. New nutritional psychiatry targets these pathways. Food for thought, traditional versus nutritional psychiatry, which is more effective. Nutritional psychiatry is non-invasive, has very few side effects, and is easily accessible to all compared to nutritional psychiatry. Traditional treatments can have very severe side effects, so keep that in mind. Nutritional psychiatry is non-invasive. It doesn't invade anything, doesn't fuck up your brain chemistry, doesn't fuck anything up. It has very few side effects and is easily accessible to everyone. Compared to nutritional psychiatry, traditional psychiatry can have very severe side effects and do little for deteriorating physical health. The evidence for the effects of nutritional treatments on symptomology is still fresh, as many clinical trials are still in progress. Despite this, nutritional psychiatry allows for the physical health of the people with severe mental health issues such as schizophrenia and psychosis, which have otherwise been neglected. So you are treating the physical health along with the mental health, because wouldn't you know it, the better your physical health gets, usually the better your mental health gets. Neglected physical health in these individuals has led to higher rates of obesity, higher rates of diabetes, higher rates of hypertension, and other cardiovascular diseases. In turn, this has led to a large decrease in their life expectancy. This, together with the symptoms of the condition, side effects from medication, and cognitive impairments, causes a significant decrease in the quality of life for these individuals. Nutritional psychiatry, therefore, acts to improve the quality of life of people who suffer from mental health illnesses. Nutritional psychiatry can therefore impact the lives of these people greater than traditional psychiatry alone. Further in-depth research is needed to widen this impact. So, as you saw, restless leg syndrome was added to the DSM, okay? We've all heard the saying, blah, 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 blah. Well, can restless leg syndrome be cured with proper diet? Let's see. Although the exact cause of restless leg syndrome is unknown, researchers have determined, because it's probably a number of causes, have determined that people with an iron deficiency are more likely to be affected by the disorder. Specifically, it is believed that low iron levels in the brain may be responsible. However, iron levels in the blood are not the same as iron levels in the brain. Unfortunately, a blood test only tests iron levels in the blood, and the only way to test iron levels in the brain is using specialized brain imaging. Therefore, your neurologist may suggest that you incorporate more sources of iron into your diet as a way of managing these symptoms. This is especially the case if you have a medical condition that affects iron levels, such as kidney failure, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, Parkinson's disease, or peripheral neuropathy. Okay, which also could be called autonomic dysfunction in some people. Okay, so additionally, folate and magnesium have also been associated with improving restless leg syndrome. Okay, here we go. So this is about food sources of iron, of course, are red meat, liver, spinach, leafy greens, dried fruit, poultry, pork, seafood, iron-fortified cereals. Folate: liver, spinach, and leafy greens, fortified cereals, black-eyed peas, lentils and beans, rice and quinoa, asparagus, whole wheat, pasta, Brussels sprouts, avocado. Magnesium: almond, spinach, cashews, peanuts, soy milk, black beans, edamame, peanut butter, whole wheat, bread, brown rice. Okay? So, restless leg syndrome, which has been added to the DSM, even though one of the major causes of it are antipsychotic medications, okay, might be fixable with proper diet. Just throwing that out there. And this is from Neurology Center. This is neurology, not some bullshit psychobabble. Association between vitamin D level and restless leg syndrome, a population-based case control study. Okay, conclusion: our study identified an association between vitamin D deficiency and restless leg syndrome. Consequently, vitamin D deficiency should be considered in the management of restless leg syndrome. However, further studies are needed to evaluate the causality relationship between vitamin D levels and restless leg syndrome. Do you think that when you go to the psychiatrist and go, you know what, God damn it, I got some restless leg syndrome, do you think the psychiatrist is going to test your vitamin D level? I fucking doubt it. Now remember, they're saying orthomolecular medicine is pseudoscientific, naturopathy is pseudoscientific, everything that isn't allopathic medicine and psychiatric and blah blah blah, it's all pseudoscientific. This is from PubMed. This is the medical library of the United States of America. Good nutritional status is important for maintaining normal body function and preventing and mitigating the dysfunction induced by internal and external factors. Nutritional deficiencies often result in impaired function, and conversely, intakes at recommended levels can resume or further enhance body functions. An increasing number of studies are revealing that diet and nutrition are critical not only to the physiology of the body, not only for physiology and body composition, but also have significant effects on mood and well-being. Because what do you know? Physiology and body composition sure seem to have a whole hell of a lot to do with mood and mental well-being. Jeez. This is the introduction. You can read this on your own about essential fatty acids, central nervous system, magnesium, yada, yada, yada. So, let's take a look here, okay? You know what? I skipped ahead too far. So EPA and DHA are predominant PUFAs. They're marine oils that can be found in algae. Alpha-tocopherol is one of the 8 isoforms of vitamin E located mainly yada, yada, yada. Alpha-tocopherol deficiency impairs both innate and the adaptive immune function and can increase adverse events during pregnancy and lead to neurological abnormalities. You're not getting enough vitamin E, you might get fucked up. Folic acid is a synthetic form of the water-soluble vitamin B9 known as folate. Both folate and folic acid must be metabolized. The more bioavailable form, L-methylfolate, to play their several roles. L-methylfolate is able to cross the blood-brain barrier, or the BBB, and regulate the production of the neurotransmitters dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin, thus contributing to mental function and performance. Several B vitamins, including including folate, are also cofactors in homocysteine metabolism. So if you don't have enough B9 and B12, your homocysteine goes through the roof. So much so that you can even check for a folate deficiency or a B12 deficiency to a large extent by how high the homocysteine level is, and do the reverse. If you have a low B12 and low folate, chances are you probably have high homocysteine. Magnesium is the second most abundant intercellular basically cell salt in the human body. It acts as a calcium antagonist and has a wide range of biological roles. This is why Bruce Ames states that you need to take CalMag. You know who else said you needed to take CalMag? L. Ron Hubbard, somebody that is somehow excoriated by the mental health community for offering an alternative to mental health, including cellular energy, metabolism, nerve conduction, membrane stability, and synaptic transmission. Magnesium has also anti-inflammatory properties mediated by the reduced expression of the release of pro-inflammatory molecules. Hypomagnesemia, meaning not enough, usually occurs in critically ill patients due to gastrointestinal loss or dysregulation of renal absorption. Also, certain drugs and alcohol use can cause hypomagnesemia. Now, I want to be sure that you understand this. My cardiologist, who's treating me currently for, for autonomic dysfunction, recommended that I get over 1,000 milligrams of magnesium citrate a day. Just saying. Why? Because I have autonomic dysfunction. Why may I have autonomic dysfunction? Because of a drug called Seroquel I was given for a major depressive disorder, which it really shouldn't be given for that, but I was given it for that anyway. Potential effects on stress. Okay? Stress and the body, yada, yada, yada. Stress contributes to overall reduction in quality of life, and da-da-da-da-da. Nutritional imbalance, insufficient vitamin intake, and excessive consumption of fat can result in dysregulation of stress hormones. I want to be sure that you understand this. In Adele Davis's one book, she discusses vitamin C for the control of stress, and the fact that guinea pigs resisted stress induced by the cold if they were given high doses of vitamin C, but not if they weren't. Okay? Physical stress and emotional stress are kind of the same thing. Conversely, a healthy nutrition can greatly contribute to bridge over the stress and reduce the probability of stress-related disease, and setting the RCT supported a positive impact of folate and magnesium oxide supplementation. That's a weak-ass form of magnesium, too. Okay, so magnesium oxide, which is not well absorbed, even that works. The administration of DHA, an essential fatty acid, to stressed healthy subjects resulted in significant reduction of perceived stress, supporting the protective or adaptogenic role of omega-3 fatty acids. So, tested molecules: magnesium oxide, folic acid, multivitamin supplementation, stress, 8-week randomized, blah, blah, blah. B6, magnesium, stress, 8-week, yada, 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 DHA, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, as you can see, this shit's actually tested. Potential effects on anxiety disorders, yada, yada, yada. What did they give them? Let's see. So, magnesium, yada, da, 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 da. Potential effects on sleep disorders. Omega-3 fatty acids. Potential effects on mild cognitive impairment. MCI, mild cognitive impairment, has been defined as transitional stage between healthy aging and dementia, characterized yada yada yada. This is caused by excessive neuroinflammation. Adequate dietary intake of omega-3s helps. Omega-3s and omega-6 fatty acids and antioxidant vitamins, including vitamin E, to older adults with mild cognitive decline or moderate cognitive whatever. It induced an improvement in their condition. Okay, a meta-analysis indicated the need for longer-term studies. Vitamin E, yada yada. Depressive disorders. Neuropsychiatric disorders have been traditionally related to a dysregulation of neurotransmitters. That's been thrown out the window now. Nonetheless, the persistence of treatment refractory, blah, 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 blah. What did they give them here? A Western diet, a strong relationship between inflammatory cytokines and the neurotransmitter, Okay, by virtue of the relationship between inflammation and neuropsychiatric disorders, traditional antidepressants and anti-inflammatory, neuroproductive effects, yada da 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 da, or traditional antidepressants can induce side effects, duh. Okay, in particular, clinical studies concerning the use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories in depression revealed a benefit effect in some cases. Focus on EPA and DHA. This is omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory, as is vitamin C, as is a number of the B vitamins. You take this shit, it's going to decrease neuroinflammation. Duh. Focus on vitamins. So this is the EPA, yada yada yada, and it reduced the prevalence of depressive disorder. Vitamin E. Okay, with okay, so the role of alpha tocopherol in the brain has been investigated in the Maureen model with a double deficiency of vitamin C and vitamin E, revealing an increased expression of inflammatory related genes, possibly causing neuroinflammation in the brain. Focus on magnesium. Magnesium plays a key role in differentiation, proliferation, functioning, and movement of immune cells. Focus on folate and neuroinflammation. You can read this on your own. I've discussed this, so discussion here, but you can read this on your own. I've discussed this at length. What my point is there is more motherfucking proof for nutrition and the role of nutrition, a proper diet, and supplementation, otherwise known as naturopathic interventions, in the treatment of chronic diseases, particularly neuropsychiatric issues, than there is for what's on the market, and then there is for psychiatry, than there is for talk therapy. Okay, there's more fucking proof for a naturopathic intervention, for an orthomolecular intervention, for a dietetic intervention, for a physical therapy intervention, than there is for what psychiatry has to offer. Okay? A new research field, the nutritional psychiatry, or an old field called orthomolecular psychiatry or naturopathy, evolved in the last years with the aim to identify the dietary components that are particularly important for mental health. Yeah, they did that a while back. These motherfuckers should read Abraham Hoffer's work. I'm gonna move on here. Nutrition and mental health, a review of current knowledge about the impact of diet on mental health. Background, review methodology. This is another meta-analysis. So let's see, let's get down to the conclusions of this son of a bitch here. Blah, 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 vitamins, zinc, magnesium, yada, yada, da, 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 da. Again, you guys can read this on your own. I wanted to skip right to the conclusion here. So in recent decades, the relationship between nutrition and patients' mental status has been underappreciated, as evidenced by the lack of research conducted before the 21st century in this area. In recent years, this trend has been reversed, with research into psychodietetics and nutrapsychiatry gaining popularity in the context of current changes, urbanization, globalization, including the food industry and changes in people's lifestyle and eating habits. Correlations between these phenomena and their impact on psychological status are becoming important. Exploring these correlations creates potential opportunities to implement new effective dietary, pharmacological, therapeutic, and above all, preventative interventions. Hey, if you're a fat fuck there, like if you're, look at this, you're eating shit food, okay, sitting on the couch watching TV, you become a fat fuck and you become depressed. Yeah, watch that. Look at that little graphic there, man. That's great. So, look, down here at the bottom, you eating shit food, you're happy, then you start watching TV, you become a fat fuck, then you got mental health disorders. Nutrition and nutritional deficiencies in schizophrenia, an association worthy of constant reassessment. See, remember, they said that Dr. Abraham Hoffer and Dr. Linus Pauling in orthomolecular medicine was quackery. It was quacktacular. But wait, the scientists, not Wikipedia, but the actual scientists are saying this shit is worthy of constant reassessment. Introduction, blah, 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 blah. You can read this on your own. I'm going to go right down to the conclusion. The mechanisms through which diet, nutrient, and/or nutritional deficiencies cause schizophrenia or worsen it severely are still being studied. However, a number of modalities have been suggested. These include factors like poor diet, poor dietary practices, and/or nutritional deficiencies that have been linked with the development of hyperhomocysteine, high homocysteine. Remember, B12 and folate do what? They knock that shit down. Okay, but there's also a derangement of the oxidant-antioxidant status. How do you reverse that fuck up? Vitamin C and vitamin E. Oh wait, Dr. Hoffer was already doing that shit, but he's a quack. Gut-dwelling microbes, yada yada yada, nutrition and schizophrenia therapy. In the last few decades, the crucial role played by nutrition in the maintenance of mental health has continued to be emphasized. The dynamic relationship between adequate intake of dietary nutrients and optimal mental health has also been reported. The need to use nutritional interventions to achieve general health and well-being was the beginning of orthomolecular medicine. Holy shit! They're even using the name orthomolecular medicine. Orthomolecular medicine is defined as the restoration and maintenance of health through the administration of adequate amounts of substances naturally occurring or normally occurring in the body. It allows the use of endogenous and natural compounds as either supplements in conditions of nutritional deficiency or in the provision of an additional requirement in conditions of increased demand. Although in the past it had been regarded as non-scientific non-scientific approach to healing, the availability of increasing scientific evidence supporting its benefit in aging-related diseases, and more recently in the management of a number of neuropsychiatric disorders, including depression and schizophrenia, just like Dr. Abraham Hoffer originally treated with it. Evolving knowledge regarding the impact of derangements in one-carbon metabolism, blah, 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 blah. Dietary intervention is therapeutic target in schizophrenia, yada, yada, yada. There is now overwhelming evidence that modifying important dietary habits and dietary compositions, such as the consumption of vegetables and fruits, and increasing the intake of fiber, polyunsaturated fats, and omega-3 fatty acids, in contrast to omega-6 fatty acids, have significant and sustained general health benefits. Healthy diets, such as the dietary approach to stop hypertension, or DASH diet, and the Mediterranean diet, or lifestyle changes or dietary modifications that have been shown to be beneficial in the prevention and risk factor reduction and management of chronic diseases. Several studies have demonstrated that strict adherence to these dietary choices have rewarding effects on diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obstructive sleep apnea, chronic kidney disease, arthritis, cancer, metabolic diseases, and with a significant impact in reducing total mortality. The Mediterranean diet, which reflects the eating habits of the Mediterranean or Middle Eastern countries, is based on the consumption of fresh vegetables, cereals, olive oil, and plants, with low consumption of meat. While the DASH diet, which was designed by the National Institute of Health, funded researchers in the 1990s to aid in the prevention and treatment of high blood pressure, was also known to be effective in lowering blood cholesterol levels. It is a diet rich in vegetables, fruits, low-fat dairy products, whole grains, nuts, grains, fish, meat, and poultry. dietary interventions have proven to be successful in reducing the risk factors for a number of chronic diseases, including diabetes, cardiovascular disease, stroke, metabolic syndrome, and in some mental health disorders, including depression and anxiety. The benefits of now, do you think psychiatrists are telling people that come into their office, yo, go on the fucking DASH diet? Go on the fucking Mediterranean diet? Let's take your fucking blood pressure? Let's see what your fucking cholesterol is? Probably not, unless they're on a medication that needs management of blood levels. The benefits of good nutrition in schizophrenia have been self-reported, and while the details of its benefits are still being studied scientifically, proponents of these alternative treatments approach, this alternative treatment approach, it's not an alternative treatment approach. This is actual fucking medicine. Doctors used to do this shit, okay? It's not an alternative approach. Have suggested that the beneficial effects of good nutrition and or dietary intervention could be multi-pronged. Good nutrition and healthy diets can impact schizophrenia symptom severity, duration of episodes, and the incidence of negative symptoms. Also, there have been reports that persons with schizophrenia are more likely to have comorbid death problems, including obesity, chronic inflammation, metabolic syndrome, autoimmune disease, and cardiovascular disease, all of which, when they occur in the general population, benefit from nutritional interventions. So they probably would for this population too. This has led to the suggestion that these nutritional interventions could help in reducing schizophrenia mortality, especially when in a sequela of these comorbid conditions. In a few instances, there have also been suggestions that dietary interventions could be beneficial in schizophrenia, especially if there is a causal relationship between diet and schizophrenia. There was an excellent video on the Huberman podcast, an episode of the Huberman podcast by Andrew Huberman, where a psychiatrist was on talking about the benefits of a ketogenic and Atkins diet and the benefits of an Atkins diet on schizophrenia. The early instances of dietary intervention in schizophrenia were from suggestions that gluten-free diets could be successful in mitigating schizophrenia or militating against its severity. However, while few studies have demonstrated the ability of a diet free of gluten to improve functioning in schizophrenia or decrease symptoms, there have been several studies that have reported no effect. Okay, however, let's see, going down. In a double-blind, gluten-free versus gluten, blah, 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 blah. Of course, gluten-free is horseshit unless you have celiac. Ketogenic diets are high in fat but low in carbohydrate and have been shown to be successful in weight loss and or control reduction, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so published a case report that demonstrated that the complete amelioration of schizophrenia symptoms in a 70-year-old Caucasian woman with long-standing schizophrenia following the commencement of a ketogenic diet. Now, what I want you to understand, if you look at my other videos about the Eco-Atkins diet, or even the Zone diet, I will guarantee you that the reason this diet is so effective at helping with the schizophrenia happens to do with the higher nutrient density of a ketogenic diet, whereas a regular Western diet is not very nutrient dense. I would guarantee you with a South Beach style diet, a Zone diet, or even the Mediterranean diet, you're going to see remarkable effects. But I'm not a doctor, so I can't say that. Nutritional supplements is a therapeutic target for schizophrenia. Okay, but remember, this is all fucking quackery. Your psychiatrist will tell you this is quackery. There is a great deal of interest directed towards the use of nutritional supplements such as vitamins and trace elements, yada da 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 da. So the earliest suggestions that vitamins could provide therapeutic benefits in schizophrenia arose from reports associated with schizophrenia vitamin deficiencies. So vitamins B12 and C were beneficial in ameliorating schizophrenic symptoms. So vitamins B12 and C, because remember, high homocysteine and high oxidative damage, high oxidative stress. So if you knock down the homocysteine and increase the antioxidant pool, you're probably going to see a benefit, just like Dr. Hoffer did. Now, don't think that psychiatrists don't know this shit, because they do. They're doctors. They know that this shit exists. They might not know all the case studies, but they know theoretically that this shit should do the shit that it does. The benefits of dietary supplements in mitigating the pro-oxidant and other drug-related side effects of antipsychotics. So remember, antipsychotic drugs are effectively neurotoxic poisons. They are neurotoxins. They are poisons. Poisons that are being prescribed to you, like Haldol, have also been reported in mice. So the supplements help to mitigate the pro-oxidant effects of these drugs. Okay? Combining antioxidant supplements, such as omega-3 fatty acids, that's not antioxidant, vitamin E and C, in schizophrenia patients with ongoing Haldol treatment over a 4-month period showed an improvement in clinical symptoms and a decrease in the severity of side effects induced by the Haldol. Dietary supplementation with zinc had also been shown to reverse Haldol-induced changes in open field behavior and spatial working memory, while potentiating Haldol-induced anxiety, suggesting that co-administration of Haldol with zinc can reduce some side effects. Maybe you don't need the Benadryl, maybe you don't need the Cogentin, maybe you just need zinc. Conclusion: overall, despite the current knowledge, some further study, yada yada yada. We know that shit. Moving forward. How our body prioritizes micronutrients by Bruce Ames. This is Bruce Ames's triage theory explained, okay? So that's Bruce Ames. He's currently 93. That's not him when he's 93. So let's get to the intro here. So what if we are consistently attributing poor health to the wrong things? Focusing too much on fats and carbohydrates, yada da da da. We're not focusing enough on the micronutrients. So the general rhetoric when it comes to micronutrients are eat a balanced diet, eat your vegetables, eat a diet with lots of colors, which is good advice and should work. But in practice, we have a widespread micronutrient deficiency across the globe. But first, what are micronutrients? Micronutrients are essential nutrients. They're micronutrients, or they're elements or compounds that our body can't make. We need to get them from the environment. We need to eat them. And below list 40 micronutrients. So macronutrients are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients, which he doesn't have there for whatever reason. Macronutrients are widely talked about. Micronutrients come bundled up with the foods we eat. By eating a varied diet incorporating vegetables, nuts, and animal products, we can generally get enough of the micronutrients to live healthily. But one curious thing about micronutrients is that we can continue functioning relatively well even if we are very low on them. And that is part of why they get often overlooked. If a regular person drinks a coffee, they quickly feel the effects of the caffeine. Okay? Compare that to a regular person taking a vitamin pill packed with micronutrients. They're unlikely to feel anything at all, because vitamins aren't drugs. Similarly, if you're deficient of a particular micronutrient for a period of time, you're also unlikely to feel anything different. It takes a long time to feel the effects of micronutrient deficiency. What happens if you don't get enough micronutrients? We're generally all familiar with examples of extreme micronutrient deficiency, like scurvy, which happens from not getting enough vitamin C. But basic foods like potatoes put an end to that. Back then, they hadn't isolated the benefits of limes to vitamin C. They just knew limes prevented them from getting sick. Okay, the sailors, that is. So, an extreme at an extreme, the example of being deficient in folate can lead to DNA damage comparable to that of high-dose radiation. Not getting enough folate can lead to the same DNA damage as high doses of radiation. Similar to how hospitals have to triage patient injuries, treating the most life-threatening ones first in order to ensure maximum patient survival, our body triages how it uses micronutrients, prioritizing the most important functions to ensure its short-term goals of survival and reproduction. This means that processes useful for living take a back seat. So the processes used for living longer will take a back seat to the ones that we need for immediate survival. So let's take a look here. So these are some of the nutrients, the 40 essential micronutrients: biotin, folic acid, niacin, panthenate, riboflavin, thiamine, vitamin A, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, calcium, chloride, chromium, cobalt, copper, iodine, iron, magnesium, manganese, molybdenum, phosphorus, potassium, selenium, sodium, zinc, linoleic acid /DHA, linoleic acid, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, valine, histidine, choline. Why do we care about triage theory? Generally speaking, we all want to live as long and healthy a life as possible, unless you're fucked up in the head. So if we accept what triage theory posits, then we can help live longer and healthier by avoiding micronutrient deficiencies, thus giving our bodies an optimal chance to prosper. So I already went over the 40 essential micronutrients. So these are the vitamins again: thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, pantothenic acid, biotin, vitamin B6, folate, vitamin B12, ascorbic acid, fat-soluble vitamins. So I take a shitload of vitamins, okay? More than is necessary for the average person to live a normal life. But I, like Brian Johnson, am trying to live an exceptionally long time. So I take key nutrients and things called longevity vitamins, like taurine and some of the plant chemicals. Now, what you need to recognize, so what should the average dumb fuck on the street do? Well, the average dumb fuck on the street should take a multivitamin, okay, probably take extra B12, probably take extra folate, probably take an omega-3 supplement, probably take one that comes from algae oil, and probably eat more high omega-3 oils, not cooked, but as dressings and things like that, like canola oil and flaxseed oil, okay, and flax seeds and walnuts and things like that, unless they're allergic to those, okay. So I would recommend that. I would also recommend probably taking more of the antioxidant vitamins, particularly vitamin C and E, okay. I would also recommend reading Linus Pauling's one book on nutrition, which gives you a step-by-step of what vitamins to take and what quantities. I would also recommend taking an essential amino acid blend, as long as you don't have maple syrup urine disorder. And I would recommend adding to that extra branch chain amino acids. I would also recommend taking a thiamine supplement, a vitamin B1 supplement, to help with the processing of that. So, what are the that's the water-soluble vitamins. What about the fat-soluble ones? Vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. Okay, what about the minerals? Sodium, potassium, chloride. What about major essential minerals? Calcium, magnesium. See, he's going over what you need a day, okay? So, magnesium, phosphorus, sulfur. Now, for whatever reason, this has G. That should be mg for milligram, not G for gram. So when you're seeing, well, actually, no, that's right for potassium. What the hell happened here? You don't need 1,400 grams of calcium, though. You need 1,400 milligrams of calcium. Now, you do need about 1,005 milligrams of sodium, and you do need about 2,045 milligrams of potassium. And so this is all kinds of higgledy-piggledy with the measurements here. Don't listen to these measurements, I don't think. So chromium, copper, yeah, these are supposed to be micrograms. The micrograms are all milligrams, and the milligrams are all grams. Somebody fucked up the measurements on this. Fish oil, omega-3, omega-6. Okay, the essential amino acids: isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, valine, histidine. On top of this, I like to take taurine, glutamine, and carnitine. Additional essential nutrients: choline. How do we use this list? Okay, if you go back to the year 1900, we knew a bit about minerals, but almost nothing about vitamins. It took us until 1912 when Casimir Funk found the first vitamin, niacin. As the 1900s progressed, we gradually unraveled a list of 40 essential micronutrients. Now, there's 90 essential nutrients. Okay, I trust Dr. Wallach on that one. Going forward, there are a number of things we can anticipate happening. We identify more nutrients that are extremely beneficial to humans. We clarify in more detail the desired amounts of those micronutrients. Step 1, eat a diet rich in micronutrients. Firstly, and this should be the number one priority, aim to eat a diet rich in vegetables, raw and cooked, fish, meat, especially organ meats, eggs, and nuts. Step 2, add supplements. Step 3, get blood tests. Micronutrients and the future. Extremely popular multivitamin supplements that don't cover even close to the full range of essential micronutrients. Hospital, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's see here. Questions and answers. This whole theory is quite a lot to swallow, because if it's true, and it is, it suggests we can make huge strides towards better health. And if you watch Dr. Wallach's lectures, you can see that they already have in animals. They've tripled lifespans in animals with good nutrition. You can do that with people too, moving forward. Prolonging healthy aging, longevity, vitamins and proteins. Abstract. Let's go down to the conclusion here. Rethinking vitamins, longevity, proteins, and vitamins. So remember, this is quackery, except Bruce Ames is a fucking genius, okay? But he's a quack, according to the mainstream medical community. He's a quack. Vitamins and essential minerals are usually thought of as compounds crucial for survival, blah, 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 blah. Longevity proteins and survival proteins. Among the insights derived from the triage theory are the following concepts. Not all proteins and enzymes are affected equally by the vitamin mineral deficiency. Not all vitamin minerals are exclusively needed for short-term survival. Adequate vitamin mineral throughout life plays an important role in healthy aging. He proposes that during triage rationing, proteins that are sacrificed to allow for survival belong to a category with the specific function of protecting against diseases of aging. He proposes to name them longevity proteins in contrast to those needed for short-term survival and reproduction, and thus preferentially supplied with a vitamin mineral necessary for their function. Longevity vitamins. A redefinition of vitamins emerges from the definition of longevity. Okay. Antioxidants, many blah blah blah. Some of those that are rationed may not involve interaction with survival vitamin, vitamin D. Vitamin D levels are inadequate in 70% of the United States population. Okay, vitamin D deficiency causes or has been associated with a large number of diseases like restless leg syndrome that affect healthy aging, such as all-cause mortality, cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, brain function, and so forth. Considering this high level of deficiency, the important implications of vitamin D interactions as particularly important to tune up metabolism with respect to vitamin D. Supplementation with vitamin D, which would prevent and relieve some of these problems. Omega-3 fatty acids. This intake are present in high levels in the central nervous system and Low blood levels of DHA and EPA were shown in a 5-year study to be associated with faster rate of telomere shortening. Magnesium. Okay, if you don't have enough magnesium, your DNA repair is shit. You have an increased risk of lung cancer. Choline. Choline was the first example of a conditional vitamin. Only 11% of women achieve the recommended intake, and the average intakes for the population are half to 2/3 of this recommendation. Severe choline deficiency results in DNA strand breaks, meaning it literally ages you and literally causes you to age from a molecular level. In rodents, alterations to epigenetic markers and histones and affects brain development. Taurine is another example of a conditional vitamin because it is synthesized by animals, including humans, but not in sufficient amounts. So is vitamin D, but not in sufficient amounts in a lot of people. It has been shown to be important in preventing numerous health problems, such as cardiovascular disease, brain function, diabetes, and mitochondrial diseases, as summarized below. Putative longevity vitamins, ergothione, blah blah blah, quinine, carotenoids. I propose that many of the known vitamins and minerals have, besides a survival function, age-defying or longevity functions. Okay, so take your carotenoids. Take your quinine. Okay, among these, vitamin C. Vitamin C is categorized as a survival vitamin, but it should also be considered a longevity vitamin. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble free radical scavenger. Ergothione, or ergothionine, is present in the human diet. It is synthesized by most mushrooms and cyanobacteria, but not by plants or animals. Various plant foods contain small amounts. Okay. The edible fungi synthesize It's also in pork, lamb, etc. Paraloquinoline and quinone is made, or PQQ, is made by many species of bacteria, but not by animals or plants. It is a cofactor of several bacterial dehydrogenases, such as glucose and methanol, blah 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 blah. It is synthesized by soil bacteria, enters plants from the... There's a thing called the Maker's Diet, and the dude has a whole chapter dedicated to eating dirt and a dirt supplement. That's a naturopathic diet. Just saying. He knew something that the medical industry didn't know. Okay then, so let's go here. Moving forward. So this channel is called Talon Fitness. I like it. It fucking kicks ass. I think you should check it out. So here, this guy's going to explain micronutrients, and check it out. You know, well, you can watch this on your own. I don't feel like playing it right now. It's an 8-minute, 32-second video, but it's linked in the description. Check it out. That'll be the end of this video. When I come back, we're going to talk about essential amino acids, essential fatty acids, and the trace metals.